The gleaming marble steps of the Rosewood Grand Hotel seemed to stretch endlessly upward as Olivia Bennet approached the entrance of the Christie Charity Ball. Her emerald gown, elegant but modest compared to the designer couture around her, caught the light as she nervously clutched her invitation. The doorman, a tall man with an expressionless face and immaculate uniform, glanced at her card with obvious skepticism. "Named?" he asked, his voice dripping with practiced disdain. "Olivia Bennet," she replied, standing straighter. "I am representing the Children's Future Initiative." The doorman made a show of scanning his tablet, his eyebrows rising with manufactured surprise. "I am afraid you're not on the list, Miss Bennet." "That's impossible," Olivia said, her voice steady despite the heat rising to her cheeks. "I received an invitation weeks ago. Please check again." From just inside the grand entrance, Victoria Harrington, socialite extraordinaire in a dazzling gown, watched with undisguised letter. "Some people really don't understand where they belong," she commented loudly enough for Olivia to hear, drawing appreciative titters from her entourage. The doorman's expression hardened. "Step aside, please. There are legitimate guests waiting." Olivia stood frozen as wealthy patrons brushed past her, some curious, others dismissive. The security guard stepped forward, his hand hovering near her elbow. "Ma'am, I'll have to ask you to leave the premises." Her hands trembling, Olivia stepped away from the line, fumbling for her phone. The screen blurred through and shed tears as she hit the speed dial. "Dad," she whispered when he answered, "I need you. They won't let me in." A deep voice responded immediately. "Don't worry, princess. I'll handle it." Olivia waited near a decorative fountain, fighting to maintain her composure as limousine after limousine deposited guests in designer finery. Each arrival felt like another twist of the knife. She'd spent months preparing for this night, the one evening when the city's wealthiest philanthropists decided which charities would receive funding for the year. Victoria, clearly not satisfied with Olivia's banishment, sauntered outside with two friends in tow. Her crimson lips curved into a predatory smile. "Oh, Olivia's still here. How persistent," she purred. "Though I must say that department store dress was a valiant effort." Her eyes flicked dismissively over Olivia's gown. "Perhaps next year you could save up for something appropriate." "My dress isn't the issue, Victoria," Olivia replied quietly. "Someone removed my name from the guest list." Victoria's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. "Perhaps the committee finally realized that little hobby charity of yours isn't worth their time. This event is for serious players, darling, not playing at philanthropy." As Victoria and her friends retreated inside, the security guard approached again, his expression now openly hostile. "Miss, we've been patient, but I need to ask you to leave the hotel grounds entirely. You're making the guests uncomfortable." Olivia clutched her clutch purse, wondering if her father would arrive in time to salvage anything from this humiliating disaster. Years earlier, Robert Kingston had been a struggling entrepreneur with nothing but determination and a brilliant mind. Now, he controlled Kingston Enterprises, a global conglomerate with interests in everything from renewable energy to medical technology. His net worth had 12 zeros, but you wouldn't know it from his personal life. Robert had raised Olivia alone after her mother's death, instilling in her the values that had guided his own success: integrity, compassion, and the understanding that true worth came from character, not bank accounts. When Olivia turned 18, he'd offered her the world, luxury apartments, executive positions, and limited resources. She'd chosen instead to make her own way. "I want to earn my place, Dad," she told him over dinner in their modest family home, the same home he'd get despite his billions. "How can I help people if I've never understood struggle?" Robert had smiled, pride evident in his eyes. "You've always been wiser than me, Livy." So Olivia had attended college on scholarships, lived in cramped apartments with roommates, and eventually founded Children's Future Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to providing educational opportunities for disadvantaged youth. She used her mother's maiden name, Bennet, not out of shame for her father's success, but to ensure her work was judged on its merits alone. Victoria Harrington had been Olivia's opposite since their school days. Born into old money, Victoria had navigated life with the certainty that her surname guaranteed superiority. When Olivia's Smile charity began gaining recognition for its innovative programs and remarkable results, Victoria's philanthropic foundation, little more than a tax shelter and social stepping stone, was eclipsed. The Cristobal represented Victoria's chance to reassert her dominance. As committee chair this year, she quietly ensured Olivia's invitation would mysteriously disappear from the final list. Without access to the event, Olivia's charity would miss the crucial networking and donor meetings that determined the coming year's funding. What Victoria didn't know, what few people knew, was that Robert Kingston preferred anonymity. His charitable giving, which exceeded the GDP of small nations, happened through layers of foundations and trusts. He avoided public appearances, declined interviews, and was rarely photographed. His power was exercised through proxies and representatives, making him something of a legend in business circles. Olivia had never used her father's connections, but tonight, watching her Eve's work crumble because of Victoria's petty jealousy, she'd finally called him. Standing outside the Rosewood Grand, she felt a complex mix of emotions, pride wrestling with practicality, independence colliding with the needs of the children her foundation served. 40 minutes after Olivia's call, a convoy of 3 sleek black vehicles approached the hotel entrance, moving with synchronized precision. The lead car, a custom Bentley with darkened windows, stopped directly before the grand staircase, causing immediate commotion. Security guards' radios crackled with urgent chatter. The event coordinator, a harried woman clutching a tablet, rushed outside, her professional smile firmly in place despite the unexpected arrival. Behind her, curious guests gathered, champagne flutes in hand. When the driver opened the rear door, Robert Kingston emerged tall, distinguished, his silver hair perfectly groomed, his bespoke suit radiating quiet authority. Though now in his 60s, he moved with the confidence of a man accustomed to shaping the world rather than adjusting to it. Recognition rippled through the onlookers. Robert Kingston rarely attended public functions. His presence at any event immediately elevated its significance, transforming a social gathering into a historical marker. Is that? The event coordinator's voice trailed off. Robert Kingston, confirmed an awestruck security guard. Inside, Victoria froze, as whispers of Kingston's arrival spread through the ballroom. The blood drained from her face as she pushed through the crowd toward the entrance. Robert walked directly to Olivia, embracing her briefly before turning to the coordinator. "There seems to be a misunderstanding regarding my daughter's invitation," he said, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. "Your daughter?" The coordinator glanced between them, confusion evident. "Yes, Olivia," Robert clarified. "She represents Children's Future Initiative, one of the most effective educational charities in the country." Victoria burst through the doors, her perfect composure fractured. "M.R. Kingston. What an unexpected honor." She thrust her hand forward. "Victoria Harrington, committee chair. I am a great admirer of your work." Robert's gaze flicked to her hand, then back to her face. "Strange. My daughter has never mentioned you." The dismissal was subtle but devastating. Victoria's hand slowly lowered as Robert turned to continue his conversation with the event coordinator and the rapidly appearing hotel manager. Within minutes, paperwork was produced on a silver tray. Robert signed several documents with a fountain pen retrieved from his inner pocket, while his assistants made discreet calls. "Is he buying the ballroom renter?" someone whispered. "No," replied a staff member. "He's buying the entire hotel." The Cristobal string quartet abruptly ceased playing. The sound system crackled to life with a gentle chime that silenced the murmuring crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced a voice that clearly belonged to the hotel manager, though it now carried a note of deference previously absent, "we are honored to welcome tonight's special host, M.R. Robert Kingston." Shocked silence fell across the ballroom as Robert stepped onto the small stage. His commanding presence required no artificial amplification, yet he spoke into the microphone with practiced ease. "Thank you for your warm welcome. I don't typically attend functions like this, but tonight is special." His eyes found Olivia in the crowd. "I'm here to support the Children's Future Initiative, a remarkable organization that has transformed educational outcomes for thousands of underprivileged students through innovative programs and dedicated service." He extended his hand toward Olivia. I'd like to invite the foundation's director, my daughter Olivia, to join me. As Olivia made her way to the stage, the crowd parted. Victoria stood frozen, her face a mask of horror as connections and implications cascaded through her mind. The daughter of Robert Kingston, arguably the wealthiest man in the hemisphere, had been standing outside like a beggar because of her manipulation. As the new owner of the Rosewood Grand Hotel, Robert continued, I am pleased to announce that tonight's event will now benefit children's education exclusively. My foundation will match every donation made tonight, dollar for dollar, with no upper limit. The crowd erupted in applause, partly from genuine approval, partly from the networking opportunity suddenly presented. Wealthy attendees began mentally calculating how their charitable giving might position them favorable in Kingston's sphere. Olivia stepped to the microphone, her natural pause now evident to all. Thank you, Dad, she said softly before addressing the crowd. True giving isn't about being seen, but about seeing others. Tonight, I hope we can all look beyond appearances and status to see the potential in every child, regardless of their circumstances. As Olivia outlined the work of her foundation, Victoria attempted to salvage her reputation by sidling up to potential donors and claiming a close friendship with Olivia. Her desperate networking came to an abrupt halt when Robert announced the restructuring of the Cristobal Committee, effective immediately. Given tonight's irregularities with the guest list, he noted with diplomatic understatement, we'll be establishing a new governance model to ensure transparency and inclusion. Later, as the evening progressed and record donations flowed in, Victoria cornered Olivia near the champagne fountain. Her voice trembled with a volatile mixture of anger and fear. You were playing us all along, she hissed, pretending to be ordinary while secretly being a Kingston. You're nothing but a fraud. Olivia met her gaze steadily. I never hid who I was, Victoria. I simply didn't lead with my father's name. You never bothered to see beyond appearances, not with me, and not with the children our charities serve. Victoria flinched as though slept. You've ruined me, she whispered. No, Olivia replied. You did that yourself. As the night progressed, the Cristobal transformed. What had begun as a showcase of wealth and status evolved into a genuine celebration of philanthropic impact. Donors clustered around Olivia, eager to learn about educational initiatives their money might support. For perhaps the first time, the substance of charity overshadowed its social performance. In a quiet moment between presentations, Olivia found her father watching the proceedings with satisfaction. You didn't have to buy the venue, Dad, she said, slipping her arm through his. Robert smiled, the lines around his eyes deepening. I didn't do it for revenge, Livy. I did it because your work matters. Sometimes people need a dramatic gesture to recognize what's been in front of them all along. Still, she sighed, I wanted to succeed on my own merits. And you have, he assured her. I just made sure they couldn't ignore those merits any longer. By midnight, the Children's Future Initiative had secured funding that would expand its programs to 3 additional states. Olivia's team, hastily summoned to the ball, moved through the crowd with tablets, collecting commitments and contact information from eager donors. Victoria sat alone at a corner table, her social circle having rapidly realigned toward the Kingston sphere of influence. When Olivia approached, Victoria stiffened, expecting public humiliation as retribution for her earlier cruelty. Instead, Olivia placed a business card on the table. We're opening a new community center next month. We need volunteers who understand the social landscape of privilege. Victoria stared at the card. Why would you want my help after what I did? Because sometimes the best way forward is serving others, Olivia replied. It puts our own problems in perspective. As the event concluded, Robert led his daughter to the dance floor for a final waltz. The guests watched the billionaire and his daughter, her emerald dress now the perfect symbol of understated elegance rather than insufficient glamour, move with the natural grace of people comfortable in their own skin. You know what I am proudest of? Robert murmured as they danced. What's that? Olivia asked. That even with all my resources at your disposal, you chose to build something meaningful on your own terms. The money bought this building tonight, But it was your character that transformed this room. 3 months later, the Children's Future Initiative opened its flagship community center in the city's most underserved neighborhood. The ceremony featured Robert Kingston standing proudly in the background while Olivia addressed the crowd. Among the volunteers distributing information packets stood Victoria Harrington, her designer clothing replaced by a simple blazer bearing the foundation's logo, her expression reflecting the complicated journey from entitlement to purpose. The local papers headlined the next day read, "Kingston Heirs Builds Educational Empire from Ground Up." The subtitle, which Olivia appreciated far more, continued, "Children's Future Initiative creates pathways from poverty through educational innovation." Worth, she had learned, came in many forms. But the most valuable currency wasn't bought with money or status. It was earned through authenticity, compassion, and the courage to stand firmly in one's truth, regardless of the doorkeepers who might initially bar the way.